Hello there, Lunch and Learners. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Lunch and Learn. Today we're episode number 79. And today's August 22nd, 2023, the only August 2022, August 22nd, 2023 you're going to have in your life.
Ah.
And Bruce said something about time travel. What is it that you say, Bruce?
I always say, until we perfect time travel.
I love that.
Okay.
Well, guys, we're here today on day number 6 of the 7 mastermind principles that we use here within the academy. And today we are on day number 6. So why don't we get started here and get going, Bruce?
All right. Day 6. I ask, articulating your dreams, using the mastermind to amplify your desires. Go ahead, Juan.
I asked the mastermind to hear what I really want, my goals, my dreams, and my desires. I hear my mastermind partner supporting me in my fulfillment.
Why asking matters? We often hear that ask and you shall receive. But the true magic lies in the intention and clarity behind your ask.
Whether you're striving for personal personal goals, professional advancement, or newfound perspectives, learning to articulate your desires within the supportive embrace of a mastermind group can accelerate your journey in unimaginable ways.
Want to do that one again?
Whether you're striving for personal goals, professional advancement, or newfound perspectives, learning to articulate your desires within the supportive embrace of a mastermind group can accelerate your journey in unimaginable ways.
Wow.
So Bruce, here when I'm like, why asking matters to me? I mean, that speaks volumes right there. Like, and sometimes it doesn't just have to be with asking for a C-type goal or something that we work on. Maybe sometimes we didn't just get the clarity in the conversation that we're having. And anytime you speak up, you raise your hand or you speak up in a group and you ask, like, you know what, I kind of like missed that. Can you guys explain that to me? Or maybe you're reading something like, can somebody help me clarify what is it that we're reading so I can understand better? That right there just opens up a new way of thought, a new way for you to tap into that imagination at that moment that we're reading.
Right. And I've related in the past that I spent, now it's 30 years doing landmark work. And when we were in classes, when we were in seminars, typically I would be the person who would ask for additional clarification. And we would take a break sometime between the 3 hours of the class. And I can't tell you how many people came up to me and say, "Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. I wanted to ask the same thing, but I didn't want to appear like I didn't know what I was talking about. But now I understand it better because you were willing to ask." So I'm really making the point. If you are questioning something and there's a group there, I promise you, there's at least 1, 2, 3, a handful of other people want to hear what you're asking about.
Mm-hmm. And this also happens when we're doing our mastermind too, when we're reading a particular chapter, there's a word that we don't understand. And we always ask Bruce, like, what does that mean? And he'll say, like, oh, it means this, or if you still didn't understand the word, he'll give you an example of what the, like, tying the word into the description of the word so it can make sense of whatever it is that we're reading in the morning.
Right. And just to make sure I'm clear when I'm offering it, I do a quick Google search, just to make sure I'm phrasing it in a way that other people can understand it.
Yeah. And you know what, Bruce, like for that has really helped me a lot, especially when sometimes you're helping another person, like making the sound of the word correctly, or so that other person can understand the word. And anytime you speak and I'm like, listen, I'm like, oh, okay, now it makes sense.
I know, I love it. And when we were with that other group, I noticed that we would allow people from other countries to kind of puzzle out the new words. I thought, I'm going to be patient because I think that's an important lesson for everybody. So I still will wait, and then if I think that something I could add will help, but I don't want to take it away from that person who's really working hard to get the word.
Mhm.
I love that about how we read things, and we're an international organization, so there will be people from other countries for whom English is a second or third language. And being with Cecilia, where Spanish is her family's language, I know how frustrating it can be when you're trying to articulate into that language. So I don't want to co-opt anybody's opportunity.
Yes, and thank you for mentioning that too, Bruce, because especially for me, when it comes to asking, I always had like going through school. Like I never wanted to ask questions. I was probably one of those people that you had in your class who like I wanted the answer, but I never felt comfortable enough to like raise my hand and ask the question. I didn't want to feel left out or like felt like I wasn't smart enough to understand what they were saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you know,
Yeah,
I was just hurting myself. I wasn't hurting anybody else. I wasn't hurting the instructor or the teacher. I was just hurting myself.
but that's not you anymore. So when did the crossover occur for you, and what generated it?
I think everything started to change when, especially when I started to really dive deep into personal development. That like if I want to get results, it's up to me to get the results. So if I need clarification, it's up to me to get the clarification because if I want another zero in my bank balance, then I got to ask those questions, get clarity, then go out there and do the work.
Yeah, and I want our lunch and learn community to know, and I've said it before, but I'll say it till the end of my time, that I was the one that saw Coach Juan doing a 30-day challenge. And it was so profoundly contributed to that I went back and I watched all 30 days. And I very timidly called Coach Juan and said, Coach Juan, do you think there's something we could do together? Because I'm very impressed by you. So Coach Juan pulls education to him today. So it's beautiful.
Yes, and that's the result of us working together that we came up with this concept and doing the lunch and learn together and inviting other people to join us. But it's all because of something that some of the work that I was doing on Facebook, maybe the live videos and so when we started talking with Bruce, I was like, we should create something. What should we create? And he came up with the idea of the lunch and learn because he had something previous in the lunch and learn or something. Bruce, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I don't know if it was 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Lawyers in downtown law firms were losing their jobs. And some of these were partners in downtown law firms. And it was right around, well, what is that, 2007, 2008. So that's really when the terms started to proliferate. So you had people who were at law firms and they'd been there 15, 20 years. Their clientele were used to paying $300 to $400 an hour for the lawyer's time. And all of a sudden the firm would say, you know what, we're losing certain clients, therefore we got to maximize every dollar. Therefore, our new fee level is $500 an hour. And some of these attorneys, tremendous attorneys, they say, my clients will never go for it. And they said, it doesn't matter. If you want to stay a partner in this firm, you need to do that. So there were a lot of unhappy lawyers. And what they didn't want to do is they didn't want to network. They didn't want to sell themselves. It was very common to hear, I didn't go to law school to become a salesperson. And yet that's what was being promoted in the legal community, that at this point, if you're going to build billable hours for your current firm at that $500 an hour level, or if you're going to break away and develop your own practice, like $300 or $400 an hour, you got to do business development. And a lot of these attorneys were very uncomfortable. So what I did was, I said, attorneys are my clientele. I'm going to create a lunch and learn opportunity where I rented a room in the Monadnock building, which was like the first skyscraper in Chicago. It goes back to like the 1890s. It's 11 floors high. But it's a very classic building and stuff. And one of my contacts, this guy David Weil, he was the president of the it's for defense attorneys. Like, I can't think of the name right now, but he officed there. And I said, David, is there a room that we might be using? He says, yeah, there's a conference room and it's on tiers. So it goes up, on different levels. And there are sandwich places inside the building. So people grab a sandwich. There's a couple of sandwich shops, in the nearby neighborhood. And we would then have speakers so that sometimes we could give them continuing legal education credits too. So one time we had a judge who was talking about how to work with judges when you're in a trial. And that was one of the most well-attended meetings we had. A judge was willing to sit there and just be patient and say, here's how you could actually win the favor of the judge, So it's beautiful. We had other speakers too. It was just very well attended, and people were making connections with each other. So either they partnered up in a new firm, or they found that they could refer business that their firm didn't have attorneys who handled it, but this other person in our Lunch and Learn did. So it was just a timely event, and it was fun. I always love connecting people to make a difference for them.
I love that. I love that, Bruce, and I love the concept because that's essentially what we're doing here. Like, trying to figure out ways to help our viewing audience, and at the same time, we're helping ourselves too. 'Cause
Mhm.
I believe that everything that we go through in life, especially if I'm going through some hard times in my life or struggling with some area in my life, there's probably other people out there struggling with the same thing.
Absolutely. I just want to relate a short anecdote from Ceci. He had a Buddhist chanting session at our house last night. And there's an order, and one of the parts of the chanting session is somebody talks about their experience, within Buddhism. And so Buddhism, this type of Buddhism is to make people happy. So, you can't really make people happy, but it's kind of to calm you while you're going through a certain struggle. So this one woman was talking about being spoofed by an internet thief. She was supposed to meet him and go to France, and she had never been to France, and we're going to have a romantic time, and blah, 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 blah. And then he said, but only if you send me $25,000. And she was like, no way. But what she then revealed was that a couple months prior, she had sent him a sum of money so the two of them could make a joint investment together. And it was still in the neighborhood that $25,000. And she chanted, I want to get my $25,000 back from this thief, blah, blah, blah. And, she was praying for his happiness, chanting for his happiness, chanting for her happiness. And, the first thought occurred to me is, you were an idiot. There are so many warnings about these internet scams and dating. And she's not an older woman. She's maybe 35, 40. So it's like, wow, even people who are of an age where we think they have enough sophistication, they're not going to get scammed. But she then talked to, again, in Ceci's Buddhism, you can go to get advice from a senior in faith. So she was asking a senior in faith, what do I do? I think I'm going to be losing my money. That really is devastating me, to the point where she couldn't pay her rent. It had screwed up her credit scores and stuff like that. And she was worried about making her student loan payments, because they had been forgiven for a couple of years, maybe 3 years during COVID, but they were going to be starting up in October. So her senior in faith said, well, keep chanting, because either you're going to get what you want, you're going to get something better, you're going to lose a desire. And the upshot of her story, her experience, was that she went and talked to a student loan advisor, and she had tried, she's a teacher and she has some military background. Those are a couple of ways that you could get forgiveness for your student loan. But she hadn't gotten any forgiveness in the last couple of times she had mailed it on her own. And she talked with this advisor, and the advisor said, well, there must be some reason why they failed you, but let me check into it. And the final result was she has about $126,000 in student loans, and they forgave all $126,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm really relating this because, you know, she was asking for something, but she was gracious in her asking, even though she had every right to be angry and feel like stupid or whatever. But she kept her dignity about her and she kept chanting and asking for some reward, not that she deserved it or anything, but, it was like, I'm chanting. And she would chant for other people's happiness too. And she got this big benefit. So, be clear in your asking. You don't know where it's coming from.
And you know what I love about the story you're sharing, Bruce? A lot of times when we ask, like the universe will over deliver to us, because she was chanting about the loss that she had about nearly $25,000, and she was forgiven of over $100,000 debt, student
120,000.
loan.
Yeah,
Yeah, so when we ask, if you asking with the right motives, like the universe will deliver to you whatever it is that you're asking. You don't know how is it going to deliver to you, but it's not up to us to pick how. Like the how is going to do its job on its own, like it's got its own way of doing things that we have no way of, like, manipulating that area of the how. Like when we get something delivered to us, like, just ask. If you're asking with the right motives, you will those things will be delivered to you.
absolutely. I know we're running a little out of time. I just want to say that too. It's so easy to be like, you didn't give me what I wanted, therefore I'm not going to do this, blah, 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 blah. And yet, when I'm frustrated, sometimes what I get is, I have so much in life that's been given to me that I'm grateful. So it's like, rather than being angry, and I admit that it starts out with a little bit of anger and resentment, but it's like, what can I be grateful for in that moment? You
Mhm.
know, and then things always work themselves out.
Yes. Wow, that was a beautiful story, Bruce. The first time I hear it, so thank you for sharing with me and with our audience.
You're very welcome. And I'm going to border on being politically incorrect. Ladies, it's been written about, that many times you think you're being clear when you're speaking to your partner, your husband. We don't think like you do. You have these multitasking brains that really capture things very quickly. And we don't have that facility. We have like very simple brains. Tell us what you want, and we'd be happy to make you happy. So don't think you're bothering us. Just be clear. So I just wanted to put a plug in for clarity when you're talking to your man. We're not as smart as you.
I love that. And thank you for clarifying that, Bruce. Thank you, thank you. So guys, this is what we have for you today. Ask the universe. Ask, or if you don't know who to ask, contact us, and we might be able to hook you up with the right person, and so that you might get the results you're looking for. So thank you guys
Absolutely.
for being part of this lunch and learn. And we're gonna wrap it up tomorrow with our last one of the last mastermind principles that we have for you guys. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and we'll be back tomorrow.
Awesome. Bye, guys.